When you think of a cult, you may imagine some of the modern-day groups that believe in aliens or think that their leader is the second coming of Jesus Christ. Well, it turns out that human beings have been joining cults and heretic religions for thousands of years. Many of them have been totally forgotten by the average person, and you may have never been taught about these religions in history class. And in the video today, we're looking at 10 of the most shocking cults from ancient history. Number 10. The Skoptsy. Nearly every Christian-based religion has looked down upon having any kind of sex outside of marriage, and that we should reserve the deed for having children. After all, lust is considered to be one of the 7 deadly sins, and thou shalt not commit adultery is one of the 10 commandments. But one Russian cult from the 1800s, called the Scotsky, took this rule so far that they believed you should never get it on, even if you're married. Believe it or not, the Skoptsy is estimated to have had up to 1 million followers during their heyday. They encouraged their followers to remove any body parts that may lead them to lust. Men would castrate themselves and women would have mastectomies. The founder of the cult, Kondraty Selivanov, had the audacity to approach Tsar Paul I, saying, "I am not the father of sin, accept my act, and I will recognize you as my son." After this incident, the Tsar had him committed to an insane asylum, and the cult fell apart soon after. Today, there are no remaining members of the Skoptsky, which shouldn't really come as a surprise, considering they wouldn't have been able to have any children to pass their beliefs on to. Number 9. Mithraism. Mithraism was an ancient Roman cult that was the so-called sister religion of early Christianity. Scholars believed that the Mithras were practicing their religion at the same time that Jesus Christ was preaching that he was the Son of God. The god Mithras is shown slaying a sacred bull, and there is not much known about their beliefs beside that. Unfortunately, there are no written records to help scholars unravel the deeper meaning behind the religion's beliefs, so most of it is just theories and speculation. According to experts who have studied the remains of Mithras, they believe that the image of the bull actually represents the zodiac sign of Taurus. Star maps were found among the remains of the temple, which is why they were studying the zodiac. The leading theory that historians have about their beliefs is that by killing Taurus, they would be able to shift the equinox in order to change the weather. Mithraism became popular among the Roman soldiers and became widespread in Italy. Eventually, though, it disappeared completely. Number 8. Athena Poli. You may have heard of the Vestal Virgins in ancient Rome. Over in Greece, they had a very similar all-female sect called Athena Poli. These women were considered to be like the physical incarnation of the goddess Athena, and the high priestess was one of the most powerful positions in all of Athens. She was always descended from one of the most powerful families in the city and became a go-to advisor for all matters political and religious. Every year, the city celebrated Athena's birthday with a festival known as the Panathenaic Procession. The priestess and her maidens were all supposed to remain virgins throughout their lives and dress modestly because they were supposed to represent purity. During the festival, the maidens carried baskets filled with small animals like rabbits to be sacrificed to the goddess Athena on the altar. Despite its popularity, the cult took a turn for the worse when the temple was destroyed by the Persians in 480 BC. Number 7. The Kachina. The Kachina is the name of the divine entity. No one is truly sure how this religion started or why so many tribes had the same belief system. Some say that it came from Christian influences. However, there is significant evidence that the religion began much earlier than the first European settlers coming to North America because artifacts were found dating back to the 1300s. The tribespeople would often carve and paint Kachina dolls to represent their god. For years, Christian scholars believed that they had found evidence of satanic dances among Native Americans, but it was really depictions of tribal people wearing Kachina masks while they danced. By the 1600s, the Spanish settlers truly hated Kachina because they assumed that it was demonic. They set out to destroy all evidence of the religion and began trying to convert the Native Americans to Christianity instead. Today, it is incredibly rare to find original Kachina artifacts, and they can fetch tens of thousands of dollars at antique auctions. Number 6. The Khlysts. If you've seen our list on Grigory Rasputin here on TopTenz, then you may already be familiar with the religious cult that existed in the Siberian wilderness called the Khlysts. They were considered to be heretic offshoots of the Russian Orthodox Church. The cult was started by a man named Danila Filipovich in 1645. He says that God descended upon him in a fiery chariot flanked by angels on both sides. He was given the New Commandments. Together with a man named Ivan Suslov, they began preaching and finding new followers. They believed that Mary was not a virgin when she gave birth to Jesus, and that he was a normal man until he was 30 years old when God decided to make him Christ. So, by that logic, any man or woman could be the son or daughter of God. The name of their cult, the Khlysts, translates to the Christs. One of the things they would do is dance themselves into a frenzy until they were ready to collapse. Many of the members would remain single their entire lives. Instead of having one partner, they would participate in group marriage, which was essentially a massive orgy. Number 5. The Cult of Jupiter Dolichenus. From the 2nd to the 3rd century AD, a cult of Jupiter Dolichenus began praising the god Jupiter. In case you don't know, in Greek mythology, he was called Zeus. So he was basically the leader of all the other gods that you know from the legends of old. At the time, there was a push in Rome to take away all of the foreign gods and return to Roman traditions. Aside from the statues and plaques that have been left over from the Temple of Jupiter, there is little that is known about the beliefs and principles of this cult. In 2018, archaeologists in England found a child-sized hand from a bronze statue that dated back to the Roman occupation. Historians believe that this hand was somehow related to the cult of Jupiter Dolichenus because they have discovered similar hands in the religion's temples in Rome. This discovery tells us that the cult was much more popular than had originally been thought. Number 4. The Cult of Amun. In ancient Egypt, their gods were considered to be the creators of all forms of life, and everyone was expected to praise them. Amun was the king of the gods, which is why the ancient Egyptian religion is often called the Cult of Amun. If crops and weather were great that year, it meant that the gods were pleased, but if there was a terrible storm or a drought, people believed that the gods were angry and that they must do something to make them happy. The priests were considered to be the highest powers in Egypt because they claimed to have direct access to the gods. The pharaoh was considered the first priest who had the closest connection to the gods. Instead of preaching the belief system to the people, they often kept to themselves unless something had gone wrong. If there was a crisis, it was the priest's responsibility to perform rituals that supposedly pleased their gods. During a particularly good year, priests were tax exempt and were often able to become incredibly wealthy. Women in the royal family were sometimes dubbed God's wife of Amun, and they held significant power in the kingdom. Number 3. The Goddess Fortuna. During the 2nd century BCE, the massive sanctuary of Fortuna Primigenia was built in the ancient city of Praeneste, which was 20 miles outside of Rome. They praised the goddess Fortuna, who was the ruler of luck and destiny. She was also considered to be the mother of the gods, and women often prayed to her for fertility. Followers would communicate with the goddess by throwing wooden tablets into a well. Then they instructed a child to draw lots so that a young and innocent soul could connect with the goddess. These fortunes would help them to make their decisions. Eventually, a massive temple and complex was built in Fortuna's honor, and it became a central hub of artistic expression in the community. For years, the city of Praeneste would remain undefeated, and they thanked Fortuna for their good luck. At least that was until the 4th century, when it was finally invaded. The temple was destroyed, and all pagan cults were banned by Emperor Theodosius in the year 381. Number 2. Theosophy. An occultist named Helena Blavatsky founded a group called the Theosophy Society in 1875. They teach a blend of Buddhist, Christian, and pantheistic beliefs. Blavatsky taught her followers about karma, reincarnation, and how our souls are all a part of a larger universe. These beliefs already existed, of course, and she had a hand in introducing Eastern religious concepts to the Western world. One of the many things Theosophy teaches is that the universe contains the Akashic records. This is a library that exists in a realm called the etheric plane, and it contains all of the knowledge that has ever existed in the universe. This library also contains the records of the events of every living person. Instead of books, all information is recorded on indestructible tablets of astral light. Followers of Theosophy believed that if they meditated and performed rituals, they could access the Akashic records to obtain information from the universe. Number 1. The Cult of Pythagoras. You may already have heard of the ancient Greek mathematician Pythagoras. People were so enthralled by his intelligence that they thought he had been sent from heaven already equipped with his equations. They began to form a cult that very literally worshipped numbers. Each of the numbers represented a different value, and 10 was the most sacred of all. Aside from maths, followers of Pythagoras believed in the transmigration of the soul. They believed that human souls could exist in the bodies of animals. Because of this belief, it was strictly forbidden to eat meat. They became some of the first known vegetarians, and he also encouraged all of his followers to abstain from sex in the summertime and save themselves into winter when everyone needed to cuddle up to someone to stay warm at night. New initiates to the cult had to take a vow of silence for 5 years. This was too much for the ancient Greeks. Pythagoras' home was eventually burned down, and many people tried to run him out of town for starting a dangerous cult. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and do not forget to subscribe. We got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. And when you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you find out when we put out a new video. Also, why not check out my other channel called Biographics? I'm going to link to that below. Biographies of notable people from history, if you're into that. If you like this channel, I think you'll like that, so please do check it out. And as always, thank you for watching.